Everyone can hear me just fine, I assume. It's a little loud out there. But so of everyone that has purchased something from Zappos, how many people have purchased something besides shoes from Zappos? One. All right. So we definitely have our work cut out for us ahead. If you don't know, Zappos sells everything that you could wear. So I advise you to take advantage of it. So as I start today, really what I'm going to talk about is a little bit about Zappos and how we view things about marketing culture and what the employee base and people actually mean to us. I'm going to preface this by saying there's nothing brand new here. Hopefully, you've probably heard of everything I'm talking about, but really what I'm going to try to do is just put a different frame on it so that when you think about things and how it impacts your world, you can see some tangible takeaways. So really what we're talking about is extending the experience. And the reason this is important is because there's a time when your ad budget, really defined, who you were as a brand. And the scary thing is that now the consumer is really the one that's defining your brand. And what's scary about the consumer is that's, regular people. That's people like you and me. And when the control of that experience is outside of the employee or of the company, it gets scary because you can't just turn on a dime and really change, your brand. Some people may try to, but over time, it always comes back to the truth, and that is the employee or the consumer base that's driving that for you, because times are changing. There was a time when everything that happened in your brand was within your own website or within your own brick and mortar, your own storefront, and you control that. But then all these people came along and just threw the world for a loop, and no one knew really how to deal with it. But then over time, people started figuring it out and say, I sort of get what people are doing here. I understand why people care about these areas. But then these people came along and then again turned it on its head again. And as you can imagine, we could keep going down this path of, and then these people came along and these people came along until the end of the day, and you still have an infinite amount. But the point being, the message is out there. It's not your control, so it's time to figure out how to extend it. How do you invite them and how do you allow them to be a part of it? So as we were talking about earlier, a lot of people ask, Zappos, I think we're rather fortunate to be talked about in this, social media world. Well, what's the ROI on what you guys are accomplishing? And I quickly try to move off that because we don't really have a social media strategy, but we have a communication strategy. And our goal is to talk to our customers as often as possible. So if you move off that, and if you move off the concern about, well, what's your social media strategy, it really allows you to create more opportunities to engage and talk to your customers and really have frequent and meaningful discussions. And that's the important piece. Now, the question about how and why would you do this, that's where it gets interesting because, if we go back to the little kid in each of us and ask, well, why would we do this? Why would we care? And then it's because, people want to be heard. But then you ask again, the 5-year-old, well, why do we, do this? And then you come up with a new answer and people are looking to gather information. But then you keep going down this path and you see where it goes. As long as the inquisitiveness is in you, and as long as you keep looking, why would I care about this? You can keep coming up with multiple answers. And all the while, you're never going to get to the core of it. So when you get down to the very end piece of, well, why? Maybe it's time to stop asking why, right? And just understand that it's everything that we just flushed through, but then there's probably a lot more reasons why it's important to engage people, engage the customers, and engage your employees. Because everyone is providing feedback, and that feedback is what's important to allow you to grow. But that's only important if you're listening. Because unfortunately, most customers don't pick up the phone and call you every day, or most of your customers don't walk into your shop every single day to tell you what's going on in the world. So to give a little snapshot about, to put this in perspective terms, about how these communication tactics are changing. This is just a day in the life of a company like Zappos, but let's say we have 10,000 calls in a day, in a heavy day. So that's a lot, but it's something that we can really control, because we have this one-on-one communication piece, and I can talk to you, and I can control that brand message, and I can engage you in a one-on-one experience. And then let's say you take another 1,000 live chats. So again, little less connected, little less personal, but you're still controlling that experience. But when it gets a little crazy is when you look outside of that. We have 2 million opportunities to act with our customers every day. If you include all the people that tweet about Zappos, write on Facebook about Zappos, create blog posts and their readerships, that's 2 million that we have no control of. We are not a part of it, and we are not driving that conversation. And my media budget does nothing to improve that. So that number really starts to grow when you think about it. This is every single day and growing. And you think about it, 60 million a month translates to 750 million interactions a year that Zappos is not controlling. But these are discussions that are going on about Zappos. Now this number is only growing because, as I was saying before, and these people come along and these people come along, but before the end of this presentation, there'll be 10 more social media sites that are out there, controlling the conversation. So, how does one go about really driving this, controlling it, making it relevant in a meaningful way? And I think that's the question that people need to try to understand, as opposed to what's the ROI on your social media or what's the ROI on your culture? It's really a much bigger question than that. And what we really think it's about the people. And if you focus on the people, you allow the people planning to really drive your brand strategy. And you figure out that's what's important. So it's tough for a marketer to say this for me, but I really had to determine that it's more important to plan great people than it is to plan great media. And if you have the right people and give them the right voice, they're going to drive that for you. Because Peter Piper maybe picked peppers, but people planning produced experiences. And it's these experiences that we all talk about. It's experiences that the consumers will share with their friends and families for good or bad. So if you give them the tools to share these experiences, then they're going to probably end up having a better experience and sharing a more positive light. And it all starts with good customer service. And the problem is, I'm not talking about good customer service from the stands of, just about the customer service department. We have a couple of fellow Zappos people outside. But really, it's about every single department. And every single unit is a customer of someone else. So realizing that I'm a customer of our legal team, they have to provide that great customer service to me. Or that our IT is a customer of mine, and so I have to make sure that I am providing great experience to them. And that experience is very important because it again allows these opportunities to share these stories. Now, if you get behind the idea of sharing these stories and really the culture and the right people are going to want to share that. And people are going to want to engage with the other employees as well as as your customers. Because our goal is to have as many people as possible be a voice of the company, because we really think that people are at the heart of our success. And it's driving that culture to make that success be important. So again, how does one do that? You've got to have the right culture. You have to nurture it. You have to have committable core values. You really have to, invest in the people, both hiring and firing. You have to make people-focused investments. And then it's all about education, continuing people to be driven and engaged in the brand and helping them share stories. So to break it down even more, so we think there's like 7 steps that you can just sort of walk through here to keep people engaged and excited. But the first thing, decide what you want to be as a company when you grow up. Because if you're looking for a quick exit strategy, it's going to have a very different approach than if you're looking to build a long-term brand. And it's actually rather difficult, but it's something that you have to decide sooner rather than later. But then you get into the core values, and really figuring out that culture. Once you know what you're going to be when you grow up, really solidifying that around the core values and culture is going to allow you to really drive that messaging home, because it's going to take care of all the rest of the pieces of the puzzle that come along afterwards. Allow people to live the brand, and then you'll have that inspiration that will keep people talking about your brand positively. Committing to transparency is a key component, making sure employees have access to the same information that you do, making sure that customers have access to as much information as possible, because there is so much access to information these days that the consumer is going to find out anyway. So if you're caught up in a more or less a lie, it's going to come out and hit you tenfold, as opposed to being as transparent as possible from the beginning. And then again, a lot of people hide behind transparency, as if they want to keep something back. So if you're authentic about who you are, you really don't have much to fear. Now, having that vision, we figure is step 4, and from that, it's really about, finding a way to inspire people. And think bigger than what the easy step is. Always be reaching, never become complacent. And for entrepreneurs, that mindset is, well, what would I do if I, never made a dime for 10 years? That's the industry that you should probably go into, because at that point, you're going to work harder, you're going to be more bought in, and you're going to end up driving more success. So the monetary pieces will come. And for employees, it's about being aligned with a company that has the same core values as you do. So you're not pretending to be someone else when you walk in the office as when you walk out. And then finding the difference between motivation and inspiration, because you can really motivate someone with a stick, but you can inspire them with words and really allow them to build up and drive what's best for the brand. Getting into step 5, it's about building relationships. And this is not a knock on any networking event. I'm sure every conference, including this one, is going to have one. But it's not, the problem I have is that so often it turns into like a baseball card swap. You know, let me get your card, here's my card, can I get your card? It's like an auction or something like that. Whereas in the end, if you take more time to invest in a few more narrow relationships and really form relationships out of them. You may find that, yeah, 6 months from now, you may not have the payback of that relationship, but 2-3 years down the line, you're going to find that it's coming out and paying you in spades. Building the team, you know, this is something I think every company has a challenge with, but one thing that we really try to focus on is hiring slowly and firing quickly. And those two things often don't go together because you're really trying to build up this relationship, this family environment, and this strong culture. So it's difficult to often make the decision to fire quickly, but it's an area that, you know, we continually try to work through, and I, you know, would definitely encourage others to try to do so as well. And then step 7, it's about thinking long term. You know, a lot of people think that, oh, I just opened up, you know, and became CEO of this great organization without understanding all the work and steps that go into it. So there is no overnight success. You know, it all comes with a lot of hard work, and those expect, you know, overnight successes probably aren't going to happen because there is no get rich quick thing. So again, as we were talking about, when people try to talk about, well, what's the ROI on social media? Well, my response tends to be, well, what's the return on being irrelevant? Because if you don't have the platform, if you're not producing these experiences, if you're not giving your culture and your employees the opportunity to speak for you or your customer base, you're going to quickly become irrelevant. And then at that point, you could just go back to what's really important. And this is my son and my dog, so that's the awe moment. Aw. So. That was just really quick. I wanted to breeze through, give everyone an opportunity, and then happy to answer questions now or later. At the end. All right, well, thank you guys.